GamingBolt presents 15 more ways Bethesda can milk the hell out of Skyrim. 2011 was a monumentous year for video games, more so than anything else because of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Bethesda came along and completely blew everyone away, popularizing a style of open world and emergent gameplay that had rarely been executed properly in games before. You don't need us to tell you how ridiculously popular Skyrim is, even 6 years since it first launched, and it's pretty clear that Bethesda knows that as well. The game continues to be relevant even today, which is evidenced by the fact that its several re-releases are still doing well, both critically and commercially. Some might say that Bethesda are milking Skyrim, and it's a little hard to argue with that notion. Sure, the game's still as fun today as it was when it first came out, but Bethesda are really missing no opportunity to make as much money out of this excellent game as they can. Or maybe they are. So if you're somehow watching this, people at Bethesda, here are 15 more ways you can milk Skyrim just a little more. Not that we mind. Note, just in case some of you don't catch on, a lot of this is just for comedic purposes, so try not to take us too seriously. Merchandising. Well, this is kind of obvious, and it's also something that already happens to some extent. Merchandising is done for most popular games, and there are very few games that are more popular than Skyrim. From action figures and t-shirts to keychains and coffee cups, there's a lot of potential here for Bethesda. I mean, who in their right minds wouldn't buy some Skyrim-themed knee guards? Direct Skyrim sequel. We're going to have to wait a long while before we can play The Elder Scrolls 6, which is something that Bethesda has confirmed itself on numerous occasions. But that doesn't mean we can't revisit Skyrim itself. Though the chances of this actually happening are not too high, how cool would it be if we actually got to play another game set in Skyrim, say a few centuries before or after the events of the first game? More DLC. DLC is, of course, the easiest way of keeping a game alive years after its launch. We've already had 3 pretty substantial DLCs for Skyrim, and at least one of those was simply amazing, that being Dawnguard. But if we've learned one thing in the last few years, it's that games have no expiration date when it comes to DLCs. So yeah, Bethesda, we're completely open to playing a DLC that tells us the origin stories of mud crabs. Multiplayer DLC. Skyrim is one of those few rare gems of our industry that is completely unconcerned with having an online component. But that could always change. Imagine having a multiplayer component set in an open world of Skyrim similar to something like GTA Online, for instance. Actually, that doesn't sound like such a bad idea. Are you listening, Bethesda? Retro Skyrim. Imagine playing Skyrim in the 1990s on an SNES. Sure, it probably wouldn't be in first person, and sure, the game wouldn't be nearly as deep or as huge as it is in its current state, but it would have the sort of charm and personality that very few games do these days. We're not asking for a completely new release, Bethesda, even though you never shy away from that. Just release an update that lets you play retro Skyrim at the click of a button. Movie or TV series adaptation. Movie or TV show adaptations of video games are almost never a good idea, but Skyrim is the sort of game that could benefit from something like this. It's got hundreds of pages worth of lore. It's got a rich, vast world. There's just so many stories it could tell. A well-made and well-written TV series set in the world of Skyrim could actually be a huge success if you really think about it. Skyrim, the bug-free version. In the 6 years since its launch, do you know what Skyrim has never been? Free of hilarious bugs and glitches, from its ridiculous physics to its invincible horses that can climb any surface. Skyrim has a few technical issues, to say the least. Maybe Bethesda should try cleaning this up and re-releasing Skyrim, the bug-free version, to the audiences. Though we hope they don't charge us $60 for it. Skyrim Pocket Edition. This could actually be a really good idea. We already have a means to play Skyrim on the go now thanks to the Nintendo Switch, and it's as awesome as you could want it to be. But imagine a more compact version of Skyrim for mobiles, something that you can play for 5 minutes as easily as you can for 5 hours. Hell, if Final Fantasy 15 can do it, then so can Skyrim. Skyrim Mac Port. It's quite surprising that in 6 years since the game launched, Skyrim has been released and re-released on every platform imaginable, but has still not been made available to Mac owners. Maybe Bethesda should look into that. Take the special edition and put it onto the Mac. There's a huge demand there, certainly enough to warrant a release, and there's no doubting that it would sell like hotcakes. It is Skyrim after all. Skyrim Remastered Game of the Year Edition. Releasing Game of the Year editions for games has been a long tradition in our industry, but given how good Skyrim's Special Edition was, it wouldn't be surprising to see Bethesda releasing a Game of the Year edition for that as well. How would it be different? Well, let's be honest. Even if it was the exact same game, people would still go out and buy it in droves. Skyrim Switch Game of the Year Edition. Of course, Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch is a damn good game as well, most of all because it actually lets you play Skyrim whenever and wherever you want. So yeah, given the game's popularity and its sheer quality, it wouldn't be surprising to see Bethesda release a Game of the Year edition for that as well, and then maybe an Ultimate Game of the Year edition for all of the other Game of the Year editions, though that might be taking it a little too far. Skyrim Anniversary Edition in 2021. Let's face it, this will probably happen anyways. When 2021 rolls around and Skyrim is 10 years old, Bethesda are probably going to celebrate the landmark with some sort of an anniversary release, as has been done with so many games in the past by other publishers as well. Skyrim is, by all accounts, a game worthy of that kind of celebration as well, so something like that actually happening might make some sense. Start charging for each save. Now we're moving into the realm of ridiculousness, such as releasing Skyrim for microwaves and refrigerators, but hey, that's kind of the point of this entire feature. So here's how Bethesda can make easy millions out of Skyrim. Just start charging money for every time players save their game. Players might start trying to play the entire game without ever having to save, so then maybe Bethesda can patch on compulsory saves as well. Skyrim mashed with Fallout 4. Imagine a game that's half Skyrim and half Fallout 4. Glorious, chaotic, confusing mess that would be. Diamond City and Whiterun in the same game. The thought by itself is enough to make us lose our damn minds. There could be entire quest lines about crossovers between different guilds from the two different settings. Of course, the theory that Fallout and the Elder Scrolls are set in the same world, just in different time periods, is a popular one. So to see something like this, even though we know it obviously won't ever happen, would be super, super cool. Lock it behind microtransactions. And when all is said and done and Bethesda have finally run out of ways to milk more money out of Skyrim, maybe they can just do what publishers really shouldn't do and lock the entire game behind loot boxes and microtransactions. Need a better weapon? Microtransactions. Need to fast travel? Microtransactions. Need to carry more than 5 items at a time? Micro-freaking-transactions. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.